Thanks for taking the time today to sit in on the presentation. So let me go ahead and share my screen and we'll kind of get started here. Looks like this will be the one. All right, does everybody can see that? Perfect. See if I can get my screen open a little bit more here. All right, so welcome again to the Pursue Your Passion series. My name is Derek Gentry. A little bit about myself. Let me get my keys right here. Oh, there's your check-in. So if anybody needs that, let me know.
Yeah, so try and do that check-in while we're on that screen. And if we have new kids that join while we're in the presentation, we can always go back to that. But take your time to do it now. Make sure everyone's checked in. We do have a drawing for gift cards, a random drawing for two students that are at each presentation. So it's definitely worthwhile to do the check-in. And I hear a few more kids coming in. So let's leave that up for just a minute if we could, Derek.
Yeah, not a problem.
So Jen Lynn and Eric and Zanab, if you could turn on your video so that our presenter can see who he's presenting to, that would be great. Thank you. Eric, are you there? There you go. Okay. And is it Zainab? If you could turn on your video, that would be great. And make sure you guys have all, oh, where'd we go? Have all done the check-in. Okay. So is everyone done checking in? Okay, great.
All right, we good? We get started?
Yep.
Okay, good. So we got through the check-in. So this is a little about me. So my name is Derek Gentry. I am the father of 8 children. We got somebody else now.
It's okay, we can go back to it.
Okay. 2 are university Trojan students. 1 is graduated, 1 is currently there. I have been in technology for well over 30 years. Actually, it's probably been over 35 now. I started consulting at the age of 13, back when computers really even weren't a thing, but they were up and coming. And so my mom stuck me in a bunch of classes when I was 11 and tried to get me into it. In the middle, I took some time off. I took a couple of years off to be a Disney animator. I really felt like technology wasn't the place for me, and I felt I wanted to do something different. So I went to school and studied as an animator, at which point I realized I did not want to be an animator, and I wanted to go back into technology. So I did. I also, not only do I work in technology, but I teach technology at universities and learning schools in California. And also, side note, I went to college on a bowling scholarship. Everybody's kind of surprised that it actually does exist, but you'd be surprised there's scholarships for just about anything that you do. So that's a little bit about me. And I'll give you a little bit of history on I know it's in my bio, but I want to tell you a little bit about my history as far as my work history. So currently I am an IT manager at Amazon. I manage the technology at a 1.2 million square foot facility up in Sacramento, California. I was recruited by Amazon. Prior to that, I owned my own business for 20 years. I was an IT consultant. I specialized in cybersecurity and IT forensics for law enforcement, such as the FBI, as well as attorneys in high profile family law and business cases. I also, in that time, I worked with many companies. I did 3 years where I worked and designed all the security architecture for all of the global Yahoo offices across the globe. I worked at CVS Viacom where I designed applications. Worked with a company called Thermo Fisher during mergers and acquisitions. Prior to owning my own business, I started up a business in the apartment industry, and I wrote a patent, which is actually out on the internet right now. You can actually Google it. Before that was the vice president of technology at realtor.com. And then prior to that, I was director of IT at Kroger's Food Stores, actually a leg in Arizona called Fry's Food Stores, where I copyrighted and patented a couple of applications there as well. So I've been doing this for a long time. So I've been through it, and now having kids, been through it in many different aspects too. So let's kind of go into the meat of everything. So required qualifications for being in technology. Well, it's a pretty broad field. I mean, everybody knows there's a ton of different fields you can go into in technology. Anywhere from programming to cloud computing to virtual servers to hardware, software, anything in between. Education is key. So what I tell anybody, and I actually currently I have 25 people that work underneath me, and one of my employees within my first couple of weeks of starting here came to me and asked me about some guidance on his education. He was going into information technology and he really wanted to own his own business and do it. And I said, then I would redirect. And my key to anybody that wants to get into technology is focus on business, because if you don't understand business, you can only go so far in technology. Getting a degree in information technology will be great. You'll be able to go pretty far in the technology realm, but understanding business, understanding how to run your own business, run your books, deal with people and communication, all of that thing, that's very critical and things that you need to learn. So I always tell people go into business with a minor in information technology. It will be much more fruitful for you later on in life. You also have to have an interest in the technology. I know that everybody has an interest in technology because we always carry around devices with us 24/7 that are a representation of technology. We're sitting at computers all day doing schoolwork. We watch videos, all that stuff. But you really have to have an interest and a passion for technology in the business environment. You have to have an aptitude for it. Again, you guys are growing up in a generation where everybody has an aptitude to be in technology whatsoever, but you have to really have that drive to be able to know about it and figure things out, problem shoot, anything that you need to do. And of course, you have to have a passion for it. I wouldn't be where I am today if I didn't have a passion for technology. I couldn't do it if I just came in, it was just my job and that's what I do 9 to 5, and then I go home and deal with other things. I really have to believe in the technology. I have to believe in my job, and I have to know that I'm striving to be better every single day when I come to work. Most important thing is communication skills, and I think it's something that's lost a lot nowadays because our communication mechanisms are easy little text back and forth and emails and DMs on Instagram and whatever else mechanisms we use. But being able to communicate with people and proper communication is key. What we do behind our phone in a quick chat between friends or over text message or Snapchat, whatever it is, that's not the way that business works. You have to be able to to present yourself in front of a group, be able to talk with people, be able to understand their needs and diagnose things that are going on. So that's probably the biggest thing that I can emphasize to you guys is, focus on your communication, focus on learning how to communicate properly, because you're not doing that just behind a phone or a tablet or a computer. So let's go on to the next one. So the rewards of my profession. Number one, every day is something new. I cannot tell you, I've only been here at Amazon for a few months, and I can tell you that literally every day is something new. There is never a day that doesn't surprise me. To give you an idea, during Christmas, we did roughly 1 million packages out of this facility. We shipped 1 million packages a day for 10 days straight. And that was just one facility. We have 35 of these across the country. And this year alone, we're slated to build another 120 of them. So you can imagine the technology and how that changes for us every single day. We get challenged with things with COVID. So we had to install thermal cameras to monitor people that come in the building. We had to install systems that monitored how far people are apart from one another and were represented on the screen if you're breaking the 6-foot rule. So that goes into the next idea, which is the playing with new toys. That is something that's very, very interesting for me. I'm a gadget guy. I will buy anything that shows up on Amazon that looks to be a gadget, something I can play with. There is plenty of that out there. It's not as boring as anybody likes to think. There's always something new, always some new technology to play with. And it always is representative, as the next point is seeing how the world is changing. I wish I could, Patty and I could probably go into a whole diatribe about how the world has changed just in our time. And I know in talking with my parents how it's changed with them. I'm doing tech support with them on almost a weekly basis because they always need help with stuff. But even they've had to absorb the way the world is. You have to grow and you have to adapt to the technology that's out there. Showing people how devices can work for them. That people don't even understand the power behind the phones or the tablets that they use. And sure, they could use them for phone calls and chatting, but there's so much more it can do. You can program on those devices. I've had guys that have worked for me that I had to make some change to some program that we had uploaded on a server. And I had one guy that was on a bus and pulled out his iPad and pulled up the code and was making changes while he was commuting in San Francisco and uploaded them. So the abilities are endless, and you can work from pretty much anywhere, which is always a positive. And inventing, turning ideas into reality is really the key there. Is that, especially here at Amazon, we challenge everybody to invent, come up with new ideas, and they don't stop from implementing those. If they feel it's a good idea, they'll put every effort in behind it. And we challenge people to come out with new ideas. Mention, if you think something will work better, or you can come up with a system that'll make it work better, you have all the ability to go in and do that. And that doesn't mean just with Amazon, that means overall in your careers. Don't ever shy away from making a difference and looking at something going, I think I can make that better. Or I don't think that it's working quite right. I think we should change it. Speaking your mind and being able to enunciate and communicate those properly will be a huge benefit for you, because you might get challenged, but that's the way of the world. People are always going to look back and challenge your ideas. And as long as you believe it's right, have the fortitude to stand up and say that it's right. So now the challenges of my profession. So just like the rewards, every day is something new. There is never a day that I don't run into something that is going to challenge me. And that's what I actually enjoy about it, is that I learn from the things that come up. We have to know that technology breaks. At the end of the day, nothing ever runs smoothly 100% of the time. Something's going to happen. You guys see it when the Wi-Fi goes down at home, or the internet service provider decides to not work. Or your app on your phone doesn't work right, and computer doesn't work, Zoom doesn't work, whatever it is, that breaks, and it has to have people behind it to make sure that it works. Whether you're going to be the ones fixing the programming, or you're going to be fixing the hardware, or you're going to be plugging wires in to make sure the internet works right. Key is people don't always understand technology. And I think even as, the younger generation, sometimes we take technology for granted. You guys look at the technology, you look at your phones, and you just assume everything's going to work, and that's great. But that's not always the case. You have to be able to know responsibly what that technology is doing for you. And kind of along with that, people use technology for bad things. One of the things that I do prior to working here and working with IT forensics is I worked a lot with law enforcement, where I had people get frauded for millions of dollars because somebody found a way to intercept some email communication, and what money got wired out. And before you know it, that money within 3 minutes of being wired out is in the Philippines, well past the jurisdiction of the United States, where that money cannot be returned. It's critical to know what to look for out there, because somebody's going to try and take you. I mean, literally somebody tried to use my credit card to buy $2,000 worth of gift cards the other day. I never give out my credit card. I never post it anywhere. And somehow somebody found it, or they skimmed it off of a reader somewhere, and they decided to try and use it to charge about $2,000 worth of stuff on my card. So, you know, the challenge is to make sure that people know how to be responsible with the technology that they have, and know that even though it's going to break, you're there to be able to fix it. Tips for entering the technology field. So first of all, you're already doing it. Everything that you guys do every day is built on technology. You're on your computers now, you're on your iPhone, you're on your tablets, whatever it is, you're touching the technology. Whether you know it or not, you're learning about it. You guys know well more about technology than we ever did growing up, and that's huge. But just as much as you know now, there's so much more you don't. So just like I didn't know much starting out, there was a lot more that I didn't know. Even though you guys know a lot more, there's still much, much more to understand. The thing is to never stop learning. Never believe that you are the best at what you do and that you can't learn anything else, because tomorrow there's going to be something brand new you can pick up. I still to this day program and build websites and build applications, not because I have to, but because I want to keep my mind fresh. I want to know new ways on looking things, or how to pull data a little bit faster. You know, I've had parts of my career where I've written in databases and I've had to pull, you know, millions of records out of a database, and I had to go from running that query and pulling it in 4.5 seconds, and I had to get it down below a second to make things work right. And it's knowing the nitty-gritty details that really makes the difference. Bigger scope of things, some of the things that I wanted to kind of talk to you guys about, and this really fits in many different aspects, is always start your day with completing a single task. There's been so many different, you know, presenters that have been out there and speeches that are out there, and I've watched so many, and I've spoken in front of thousands of people at conferences or whatnot. The biggest thing I can tell you is, you know, biggest piece of advice is there was a Navy admiral that did a commencement speech and talked about the benefit of making your bed every day. And it seems like such a little task, but at the end of the day, it's the very first thing that you do. It's the very first task you take on and you complete. You have just completed the first task of the day. If you don't complete that first task and you leave it undone, chances are other things will fall for the rest of the day. So if you make your bed, you've completed that task, and now you're ready to take on the next one. You've moved it to completion. Other things are try new things. Never be afraid to try something new, try something different, to go around and not go with the flow, but rather come up with a new way to complete a task. Communication is absolutely 100% key. If you can't talk to people, whether it be in an email or in person, you're not going to be successful. You know, everybody jokes about how the IT guys of old were the guys that were sitting in their mom's basement coding in the dark and eating, you know, Cheetos. That was the case a lot of times, but that's all you can ever be. If you actually want to be successful in business, if you want to get out there and really make a difference, you have to be able to communicate with people of all different backgrounds, different languages, whatever the case may be. You have to be able to put yourself into a room, stand up in front of 30 people you don't know, and present an idea that you believe is 100% solid. And if you can't do that, then the chances of your success in the future are going to be diminished significantly. Also, never underestimate others. There's always somebody that's thinking 10 steps ahead of you. So don't underestimate that, you know, you have competition. If you think you have a great idea, and I've seen this before, I've seen many people that have a great idea and they go tell 5 or 10 of their friends. Well, guess what? Somebody went ahead and took that idea and ran with it and turned it into something, and they didn't even think about it. So never underestimate the power that others have. If you believe in something, stand up for it, but protect yourself too. Most importantly, in this industry, take risks. Take the risks that you might be afraid of, but at the end of the day, might make a difference. If you think that any successful technology company, whether it be, I mean, look at Facebook. He took massive risks in that he started something that he thought was really small and took huge risks in building that platform. And now Mark Zuckerberg is up there and, some of the wealthiest people in the world. Same thing with Steve Jobs and Apple. That man took risks every single day, and he knew how to drive people to make things happen. But Twitter is a platform that was a risk. Nobody ever thought in a million years that Twitter would be a platform, because how could you communicate in 140 characters or less? But now it's a staple, not so much used as anymore, but it's still out there. Every single bit of technology that it means something nowadays, Snapchat, Instagram, everything is all a risk. Everybody took a risk in making those things happen, and look where it took you. So that's it for me. I'd love to open up the conversation to you guys. You can ask me anything that you want at all. I'm more than happy to answer questions.
So Derek, before we go to questions and answers, I know a few of you logged in late. Could we just scroll up to the first screen? So those of you who came late and haven't checked in yet, will you go ahead and do the check-in? We do have a gift card drawing for a couple of students who have checked in, and that's how you would get your gift card. And then after the question and answers, we will also have another screen for your checkout and evaluation on the presentation. So hang with us for a little while afterwards, and you can do the checkout. So as long as all of,
Oh, can I ask something too about, so I'm the historian that I'm trying to for Portola High School, and I also wasn't able to get in at the beginning. So if you can show the other screens, that like the opening, like all of your opening screen, if you have time to do that.
Okay,
also.
So during the question and answer, can he just kind of scroll through the screens?
So scroll through the screens, because I had trouble with the login at the beginning also. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
Derek, is that okay?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Thank
Okay.
you.
And so any of you that have questions, just go ahead and unmute, and Derek will be happy to answer them. And hopefully you do have questions, because there was a lot of good information there. I have questions. So we'll give you guys a minute, and just whoever wants to pipe in, we'll start there.
I have a question.
Yes.
Go right ahead.
So what majors and minors do you recommend for students who are kind of interested in business and technology?
Do you have an idea of where you want to go, like what you want to do?
Yeah, so I'm thinking of focusing on business, maybe majoring in entrepreneurship, but I'm also have a keen interest in technology as well. So maybe kind of going into that, involving myself in with technology and business in the future. So is there any maybe specific majors or minors you kind of recommend?
Like I said, I mean, there's plenty to go after. I wish that they had a degree in entrepreneurship. They don't. That's just, entrepreneurship is one of those things that is bred and just born in you. Like, you have the need to create new things, to be a business leader, to do that kind of stuff. If you're looking about entrepreneurship, business degrees themselves, the generic business degree where you learn communications and accounting and the functions of business in general and the building of businesses, that is absolutely the most critical thing that you need. If you go straight into information technology, if you try and get a degree in information technology, you're going to short yourself. People even minor in business, but I always suggest to my students, go to business first, because that's your foundation. Just like anything, if you're building a house, you have to have a good solid foundation, otherwise the house cracks. Business degree is your foundation. Build on top of that whatever you want. Later on, you can add another floor and do another degree if you want. That foundation has to be key. So the business degree is I would say, your most critical.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
I have a question. So, aside from technology, practicing programming, practicing how to build websites and all of those sorts of stuff, what else have contributed to your success? We can say reading books, waking up, your daily routine. How has that been contributive to your success?
to be honest, I mean, like I said, I can't say that even, building websites and applications or whatnot, really, that was a part of that. But it was really the passion that I had for being in technology. And I know it's kind of an odd thing to say because having a passion for it is rare. But I enjoy working with people. I enjoy solving problems. And that's, I've always been that way. I build things. I'm a woodworker. I love to build things out of wood. I like to draw. I have always had that creative side of me as well. Like I said, being a Disney animator for a couple of years, that, that all fosters, that creativity fosters it. For me, the key things to really focus on are just go after what you're passionate about. Again, saying you want to get into information technology is like saying I want to go on a trip. Well, there's plenty of places you can go. You can go to Paris or you can go to Dallas, Texas. I mean, the landscape is completely different. You have to really figure out what it is you want to do. It's not to say that you won't change later on, because that's the way it happens. But don't sell yourself short and say, I just want to get a technology job. I want to get into technology. Well, what is it you really want to do? Because there's so much more. Go into robotics. I mean, we have 1,300 robots in this facility right now that are moving product around the floor as we speak. Each one of those has to be programmed. Each one of those communicate with one another, and they know where the other robots are. And I go out and I watch them, and they stop. If another robot's coming, the other one will stop and wait for it to go by. All of that is programming on the back end. It's logic that has to be built into there, because they will only operate as well as we program to do that. So it's, for me, I think, because I started managing people and managing technology at a fairly young age. I mean, I was, I think 20 at the time that I started managing IT, and I had to learn the hard way because, that was something fairly new. And I'm in boardrooms with guys that are 3 times my age. And I had to learn how to communicate and present in those environments. So understanding technology is great, but again, the communication is key, really understanding your audience and knowing how to talk to them.
Rachel, are you getting the screens that you needed?
Oh, are these all? Oh yeah, I'm getting them. Yes, thank you.
Okay. All right, can any of you think of any other questions that you might have? So Derek, let me ask you something.
Sure.
In the world of high school or early college, how valuable or how attainable are internships so that you can see different areas of the technology to help you kind of decide where your interests might lie?
Actually, it's kind of funny you say that, because I just got done with doing about 45 intern interviews for us here for an engineering position that we have. We're actually fulfilling 28 engineering positions across the country for Amazon. Now, these were all college students, but it's a 10-week internship during the summer where they get to come in and kind of see how things run. They're going to be taking on a pretty significant role and getting involved in what's called the engineer role here at Amazon. And the engineer role is a much higher level technology job where they have to deal with projects as well as they touch the entire network of the facility, making sure things are running smooth, watching, like wireless, for instance. Wireless internet is huge. You guys know, you all have Wi-Fi at home. Here at this facility, we have 900 wireless access antennas around the building because it's so big. We have to have massive coverage. We have to have redundancy. So we have to monitor those and make sure that they stay up, that we don't have one that's going out that might cause the robots to collide with one another or just stop functioning altogether. So the internships are big. I mean, if it's something you can get a hold of, most big companies have that. I would suggest looking at companies, out there. I would probably suggest looking at companies like Blizzard. Amazon is out there as well. A lot of the big tech companies have internships because they want to foster that environment.
So talk about the engineering portion of it then. So kids that are maybe interested in pursuing the engineering aspect of it, how, because that doesn't really come up when I think of technology. I don't really think of the engineering piece of it. So the kids
Well,
that are
it's
following,
it's kind of it's a misnomer, because I mean, I went to school originally to be an engineer, and I was going to be a mechanical engineer. I wanted to design cars. So that's actually what I wanted to do. Saying you're an engineer in technology is a little bit different than the classic engineer that you go to school for. There's no technology engineer degree. It is engineering is much more like civil, mechanical, industrial, where you're building bridges or actually manufacturing warehouses, things like that. The engineer role here is, and in most companies, a support engineer or technical engineer is somebody that's much more involved with the day-to-day, like the hardware of the facility, like making sure that just like the industrial engineer makes sure the machines are working properly, the technical engineer makes sure that the network is running properly, the wireless is running properly. So it's kind of a blurred line on saying you're an engineer. It's really much more like a high-level technical position that you have.
thank you. So any more questions?
Oh, I have a question.
Yes.
Do you have any suggestion for like very beginning students who are just like having interest in it and like who just wanted to learn more about this field, and like do you have any recommendations and tips for them?
There's a couple. So some of the classes that I teach are, there's a certification called CompTIA, COMPTIA. It's kind of, and it's similar. There's also one called an A+ certification. It's a class that teaches you kind of a broad scope about technology in general. My suggestion to you, to all of you, is if you're interested in it and you don't know where to go with it, take some of the general classes or even just read the books. There's some books out there, you can even find them online, read through them. I will tell you that the majority of, as I taught that CompTIA class, the majority of it will put you to sleep. It is a very boring class. There's a lot of stuff that you probably will never use in a million years. I can ask every one of my employees what the 7 OSI layers are for data, and half of them won't even know what it is, nor will they ever use it, but it's in there. It's a good thing to know, but you're not going to ever really use it. And there's a lot of that out there, but it's a good foundation to have. I always suggest to people that I'm mentoring to try out all kinds of things, because again, the rainbow of technology is vast. You can go into the programming or you can go into hardware. Those take two totally different people. You can go into developing apps. Again, totally different mindset, creativity, everything else. Apps come from trying to solve a problem. I mean, we all know that there's apps. If you guys haven't built one, I guarantee you have friends that have built at least an app for a phone somewhere that do things like monitoring grades or doing something simple. And you never know what that is, but it's the creativity part that comes out. So touch the technology and see where your interests lie, because you already know kind of in your heart and in your mind where you're interested, like what interesting part of technology there is, or just what you're interested in general. And with that, if you can associate technology on it and drive with it, you're better off than most anybody, because that's a passion of yours. You like that, you're interested in it. So, kind of whittle through it yourself, but there are some things you could do, like those certification classes, to kind of give you an idea. Now that's a lot about networking in general and hardware and whatnot, if that's an area you want to go into. If not, start touching onto like cloud computing or programming, start touching on some of the programming languages. Python is huge right now. Everybody wants to do Python, or get into the app programming. Kind of find where your push is. You kind of know that in your heart. You know where you want to go with it or what you want to do. Think about it, 5-10 years down the road. Where do I really want to be? For a fact that you could sit down and go, well, I definitely don't want to be sitting behind a desk trying to fix Windows machines and making sure that they boot right. I want to be more on I want to build really great websites or do graphic design, or I want to, really build an empire. I want to build an app and make it do something fun. Any of that stuff. So use your own internal barometer to take you in the direction that you want to go, and then try and find a few things that'll kind of give you, some knowledge in that area.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem.
So technology can really be used towards any topic that you
Right.
might be interested in. You just have to figure out how the technology, how you would use it to apply to, any topic. You could be interested in, animals, or you could be interested in, I don't know. I don't even know, buildings.
There's a technology leg to every single bit of our world. I mean, anything that you think about, there's some technology. Even if it's, I'm looking at Nathan's screen and I see his forehead and the beach behind him, which I think is great, but there's technology behind that in some way. I mean, if you think about, you're at the beach somewhere, there's going to be a restaurant by that beach that's going to have internet, and that restaurant's going to have a POS system that runs the ordering, and that internet has to be served in some way, whether it be a fiber connection that's buried 2 foot deep in a 3-inch conduit from, what they call the LEC down the road. I mean, there's so many different pieces of it. It touches everywhere. So there's never a shortage of jobs, as well as ability to grow into something.
Okay, well, if we don't have any more questions, can we go to that final screen to do the checkout?
Absolutely.
So make sure you guys all do the checkout. And I really thank you all for joining us today, and hopefully you will have more questions, I'm sure, once you think about what we've talked about and what Derek has presented to us today. So,
And I'll open it up. I'll make sure that Patty has my contact information. Honestly, and I say this to everybody when I teach classes or I talk to my employees, and I even did the intern interviews, I gave my information out to them. If you guys have any questions, and I know it's always hard to, to communicate that in a group forum, but if you guys need guidance, that's what I do. If anything, if I can make a little bit of a difference for you guys to get into the right realm or understand, we were talking to Patty before as a prime example, my youngest kids are actually 10, she'll be 10 on Sunday, and 11, and they talk about being YouTubers all the time. YouTubers, it's the best thing ever, YouTubers, because they're presented with this idea that they look at YouTube and they see these guys doing ridiculous things and getting paid lots of money, and they have a ridiculous amount of money behind them. But you have to understand that that's a business for them. That's not just they fell into it and everything's great. They know how to market themselves. They know how to, make new content. They know how often they have to post stuff. If you think that game streaming is just jumping behind a computer and playing games online, you're wrong. You have to be an entertainer. You have to be able to entertain your masses so that you get more subscribers and you get more money. But then that's not enough. Then you have to bring in other people and be entertaining there as well. And you have to market yourself. I mean, look at guys like Ninja. Ninja's been streaming for quite a long time, but he's also a marketing genius. He knows how to put himself out there. He's got Samsung deals. He's got, he made a deal and contracted with Twitch, and then he left because Microsoft brought him over to Mixer and they killed his contract and they had to buy him out for, tens of millions of dollars. Then Mixer went away and they had to buy him out of his contract. He's got more money than he ever imagined, but it's because he knew how to market himself. It's not just because he could play a game really well. He knew how to entertain people. So my whole point is that there's plenty of ways to do things, and maybe you don't want to come out and say it here, but mentoring is part of what I do. And if you guys have a question or you don't know where to go, I promise you I can find a way to get you the information to head you off in the direction that you want. Because the last thing you want is to really be passionate about something and then hit a brick wall and go, well, I don't know what to do, and go off in some other direction instead of pursuing your passion. So if you guys have any questions at all, just go back and talk to Patty, and she can always direct you to me in one way or another. I'm happy to answer any other questions you guys have offline outside of the presentation.
Okay, so that being said, you know, I'm at Irvine High School in the College and Career Center, and my email is my name, Patty Boycinette @iusd.org. So if you email me here at Irvine High, then I can reply to you with Derek's contact information. Okay, so again, as you see on the screen, Patty Boycinette @iust.org. Okay. All right, well, Derek, thank you so much for this. Was great information. I really enjoyed it myself, and I learned a lot, so I really appreciate it.
No problem. Thank you guys for taking the time today. I do appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Bye.
Bye,
Bye. Thank
guys.
you.
Thank you.